It's another big day for Rishi Sunak as he tries to persuade his own party to vote in favour of his Rwanda Bill. If defeated, it would be the first second reading vote defeat to a government bill since 1986.
We have to page the Oracle. Joining us this morning, as ever, on a Tuesday, Conservative commentator and legend Benedict Spence. Benedict, good morning.
Good morning.
So much to talk to you about. I keep sort of trying to think, how can I put this any different? Big day for Sunak. I think it'll go through. We all do, with amendments down the hill. But this is a man who a year ago was the darling of the Tory party, was he? The darling of the electorate, was he? Brought in to stabilise, you know, after the apparent disasters of Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
And
5 points lower than when he took over, seemingly being attacked left, right and centre. I respectfully suggest that Rishi Sunak is out of his damn depth.
Yeah, I think that it's just sort of emblematic of how things have gone, is that he's tried, to his credit, perhaps, to appear tough, to give the party, to give the voters, to give the electorate in general sort of hard truths, to be the kind of guy that says, look, I'm going to be honest with you, things are very difficult and this is what we're going to have to go through. And he's not been rewarded for it at all, partly because people have gone, well, it might be very difficult, but we don't think your solution's going to work. You know, we had this with HS2 and we had this with the net zero plans, and now we've got it with this. People are just sort of looking at it and going, well, even if we think you're right that it's very difficult and difficult decisions have to be made, we don't necessarily think that this is going to work. And you're seeing that now across the board with a lot of MPs sort of in open revolt. I think a lot of them, enough of them perhaps, have been spooked by the suggestion that, look, if you bring down the Prime Minister now, it really is curtains. But I suppose a lot of them suspect that it is curtains anyway. And
is it damage limitation?
I think so.
On an individual basis?
I think so. But, I mean, the thing that is holding the tide back, frankly, I think, is that there just is a dearth of characters who could take over and improve the situation. It would only get worse. And right now, I think if you're a Tory MP, you're sort of looking at it and you're thinking, well, I'll probably lose my seat, but if we go through this whole furore again, I will almost definitely lose my seat.
Sure.
And it's sort of those fine margins that can perhaps focus the mind a little.
And isn't it also, just quickly, that when you get to this point of seemingly listen, we're just talking about it, and maybe they'll have a sweeping win, I don't know, but it looks like this sort of is pretty inevitable if you read every poll. And then you look at all these things. As a minister or even MP, it's that difficult choice. Do I align myself with the ship that's sinking? Do I go out on a limb? What happens if the ship doesn't sink? And if I haven't gone out on a limb, what if it does sink and now I'm... That's what they all do. All politicians do that. And then you ask yourself, as an election approaches, whether they give a damn about the electorate, actually, because it's all about safeguarding their position.
It is, and there will be people, actually, who do believe that even within the short window that they would have as leader, that they could do a good job. Whether or not those are people that their colleagues might want to put into number 10 or somewhere significant is another matter. But there are certainly people who would throw their hats into the ring. We all know that Suella Braverman would, if given the opportunity. So I'm not saying that they're all sort of sat there going, oh, well, it's too dangerous. I'm certain that there are some that would take that opportunity. I'm also not totally convinced that it will sail through tonight. I do wonder for that reason. Also because we've heard so many briefings over the last year or so of sort of exasperated Tory MPs going, maybe we deserve a period in opposition. I've had enough. You know, I'm going to resign at the next election. Anyway, would enough of them actually go, do you know what? This isn't worth nailing my colours to the mast. Everybody will know how I voted. Is there actually any point in this? I suppose... if you are a Tory MP in a seat where it is a concern, where immigration is a concern, or you do actually expect to keep your seat at the next general election and you are looking for 10, 15 years in the future, and you're thinking, well, what might hurt the Labour Party? You might think actually seeing through an inefficient Rwanda bill that then the Labour Party would have to come back to, maybe that would be in our long-term interest. I don't know how many people do think that long term. I doubt it's that many, but there might be the odd Tory here or there who might be swayed to vote for it on that basis. But you know, we will find out. It's very clear that it is deeply unpopular on both sides of the party, and that's when you know you really have lost it, frankly, is you're having to persuade both sides. Don't worry, it is extreme enough. Don't worry, it's not that extreme.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work.
And I think you're going to see electoral fatigue as well, because even if it goes through today, that's not the end of it. It has to go through again in January. There'll be various amendments. It's never going to make it through the House of Lords. They love to scrutinise these things, I think, fairly so. Could Sunak just leave this policy behind and hope that after Christmas we've forgotten about it?
The difficulty is, I think, the Tories have made it. I won't say the Tories, actually. It has become a sort of a front and centre issue, whether the Tories wanted to or not. You know, even if he hadn't made that one of his 5 pledges, it was very difficult to avoid, A, the boats coming across, and then B, the numbers of legal migrants who have also come. And, you know, this does play, these two things do feed into each other. You can't separate them. So I don't think he could fail on this or pass a bill that doesn't quite pass muster or persuade everybody, and then go, that's fine, that's been sorted, and everybody would go, oh yeah, no, we totally trust you, that's totally fine.
Because everybody said this morning, you know, he inherited this, although I would argue that he was part of a government and he could have resigned on principle if he hated the concept. I can't believe that he's nailed his colours to this mast. I cannot believe that he thinks that this is worth dying on the hill for, potentially, as Nick said earlier. But this goes back to 87 and Maastricht and Major. It goes back to Truss. It goes back to Theresa May. The Tories are either gloriously on top with this focus based on a landslide, or they start to just want to kill each other. And I think it's the other reason that I wanted to say this to you was today was 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago this morning when Johnson won that landslide majority. You know, Brexit done, let's get breakfast done. Brilliant, fantastic, never forget it. But 4 years later, Starmer's going to make a major speech today in Milton Keynes, of all places, and I suspect a lot of people will feel let down. Are they let down enough, Tories, to go to Labour or not?
I think even if they're not let down enough to go to Labour, enough of them might not come out and vote that'll effectively be the same thing. You know, right now, I think what the Tories need to do is motivate enough of their traditional base to not go to the Lib Dems as much as it is to the Labour Party, to prevent that sort of a wipeout, to make it vaguely competitive. That is possible. The irony is, though, it's actually in the sort of the more sort of One Nation caucus, rather than the sort of the Red Wall, that they have a chance of doing that. And that's, I suppose, the less sort of stop the boat, sort of angry tub-thumping, let's leave the ECHR wing of the party, which tends to be the loudest part. Actually, it's in those seats that they're probably more likely to be able to win back voters who are probably thinking, I wouldn't mind Keir Starmer, I wouldn't mind the Lib Dems, but I'm not sort of overly attached to them, I'm a natural Tory. It's the ones that did swing from Boris Johnson, or the sort of the working class man, who is more let down by this. Because, as Boris Johnson said, these are lent votes. These are not votes that we have won in some
fantastic... You lent us your vote.
Yeah, and it has been a letdown to them in terms of not just immigration, although that is a big thing. Levelling up as well has been just a farce. The whole thing has been a complete farce. Nobody has seen a benefit from the Johnson ears, certainly not from Liz Truss, and they've not really seen enough even will from Sunak, frankly, let alone actual results. They've just not seen what they think, here's a man I can get behind, here are policies that I can get behind. So I think those are gone.
Just really quickly, if it doesn't pass today, if the bill doesn't go through, can you see a snap election? Can you see a general election being called in the next couple of months?
Yes. I don't see that there's an alternative other than a leadership contest. And it's the same thing. It's a referendum then on Sunak. And he might as well say, well, I wouldn't probably win that leadership race, so I might as well just put it to the country.
You heard the rumour this morning that Alicia was talking about?
Which one?
Lord David Cameron as a caretaker leader into the elections.
How do you think that would go down?
Well, I have no idea. Interestingly, last night, though, you talked about both sides of the Tory party fighting around the ERG on the right. The One Nation Tories, that centrist Damon Green Wets, they fell right behind Cameron and agreed to it last night. Maybe he still holds sway, I don't know.
I mean, Nadine Dorries certainly seems to think so. I don't think it would be the worst outcome. I think there are certainly worse people who are really champing at the bit. I've heard a few names being bandied about. And
Kemi Badenoch?
Kemi Badenoch would be a good one. I don't think she's foolish enough to take it now. I think she would wait for the defeat.
But Nick, there's the other thing. If you were, if somebody said, right, this is your moment, you go, are you joking? It's going to be a wipeout. I'll wait until debacle and come and sit in opposition and build it up.
Kemi Badenoch,
timing.
No. Priti Patel, no.
Suella Braverman. Lord David.
Suella Braverman would absolutely take it
Lord David Cameron.
He's already in the House of Lords. He's already been Prime Minister.
He doesn't care, and he might get them to a point of respectability.
It's the Robbie Fowler comeback at Liverpool. He might not score 100 goals, but it'll be nice. He'll get to,
Are you a Liverpool
be in...
fan?
It might be.
Get out. What are you talking about?
Robbie Fowler wasn't.
So you think it might not? Many people this morning, most people, Nick, have been saying it will get through, but it will be, a deal whereby it gets amended and it's never going to see the light of day. It's just face-saving. But you think there could be a chance? We'll hear from Jonathan Gullis. I mean, it depends what they've managed to agree with Sunak.
We've got the whole day for people to have their minds changed. But I just think there are enough of them that have had misgivings to actually think, when it comes down to it, what are we doing here? This isn't something that's going to work. We are going to be lambasted for it. What's the point of sort of pushing this thing through that everybody knows is a bit of a farce and is just sort of delaying the inevitable?
Do you think that Rishi Sunak's regretting making it so patently obvious that he wanted the poison chalice now?
I don't think anybody regrets becoming Prime Minister. It's the pinnacle of, if you are in politics, every political career ends in failure, and at least you failed slightly higher than everybody else.
So does every television career. There's two very similar
And
things
also,
between that.
he wasn't, you know, he wasn't Johnson's successor.
No, you're right.
He was Liz Truss's, and I think people forget that.
I do, yeah, that is true. I think we do forget, actually, when we talk about what he inherited, he didn't just inherit what came from Boris Johnson. No. He did inherit, it was much worse as a result of Liz Truss. And we can get into the arguments of how that happened, why that happened, was it fair, wasn't it fair? That's the basket that he did inherit, and it was awful. And there was nobody else really competent enough to pick up the chalice at that point.
There we go. Thank you so much, Benedict Spence, for joining us this morning.